So T4G was scheduled to be the week after Easter, and because of COVID-19, they've moved to doing live stream of the conference schedule, and they also sent out the books that were going to be given out at the conference. They sent all books to attendees, and so this is a video of unboxing those books that they were going to give out. So the first book they gave out is Faith Alone, The Doctrine of Justification. Is written by Thomas Schreiner. He's a professor at Southern Seminary. I was able to take some classes under him at Southern Seminary. New Testament theology was just a fantastic course. But this is in the 5 Sola series, and then it's a special Together for the Gospel edition. The reason why I put it out first is just what they had it in order of. So I'll be pulling out the books that they have packed, the order in which they have packed. The next book they gave out is Gender Ideology, What Do Christians Need to Know by Sharon James. Now, I'm not familiar with this book. It's published by Christian Focus, and it says the author Sharon James has written several books and has spoken at conferences around the world. She studied history at Cambridge University, theology at Toronto Baptist Seminary, and has a doctorate from the University of Wales. So this is going to be an interesting book to read. Looking forward to it. The next book they give away was Captivated by Christ by Richard Chen, Seeing Jesus Clearly in the Book of Colossians. It's published by Matthias Media. So they gave a Christ-centered exposition commentary that's exalting Jesus in Jeremiah and Lamentations. The author is Stephen Smith, and it's edited by David Platt, Danny Aiken, and Tony Merida. So this is an excellent series. It's published by B&H, and just an awesome series, accessible for pastors and stuff. Stephen Smith is a senior pastor of Emmanuel Baptist Church in Little Rock, Arkansas. He's the author of 3 books on preaching, Dying to Preach, Recapturing the Voice of God, and Preaching for the Rest of Us. So it's awesome book. They gave away Dr. Mohler's The Apostles' Creed. This is a special Together for the Gospel edition. This is just, I've already read this book. I got it when it first came out, and Dr. Mohler just does a great job walking through the Apostles' Creed. It's very helpful, accessible for every Christian, every reader. It'd be a benefit if you're not able to go to T4G or not able to get some of these resources to purchase this one individually. They gave away one assembly, and I have been looking forward to this book for a long time. I just love non-Mark's titles because they're helpful for pastors and church planters and people of ministry as we think through church polity and things like that. So One Assembly is written by Jonathan Leeman, rethinking the multi-site and multi-service church models. You see Dr. Schreiner's on there, Aaron Menikoff's recommendations, Victor Shu, and Jonathan Leeman is the editorial director for Non-Marks. He's the author and editor of over a dozen books and teaches at several seminaries. Jonathan lives with his wife and 4 daughters in the suburb of Washington, D.C. and is an elder at Cheverly Baptist Church. So there's that. I'll read the back blurb. Maybe you've been there, you're running late to church, and you know it will be hard to find an empty seat. This is an all too frequent experience in a growing church. For churches experiences this dilemma, a common solution is to add another service or location. This seems like a cost-effective fix. Besides, no one wants to turn away non-Christians. But is it the best option? Jonathan Leeman presents a series of biblical, theological, and pastoral arguments to help reorient our minds to a scriptural definition of church. He makes the case that maintaining a single assembly best follows the Bible, fulfills the Great Commission, and furthers our partnership with our churches. The next book is When Pain is Real and God Seems Silent, Finding Hope in the Psalms by Ligon Duncan, forward by Mark Dever. And on the back, Ligon Duncan is a Chancellor CEO and John E. Richards Professor of Systematic and Historical Theology at RTS. And he is also going to be a speaker at T4G. So, awesome resource. The Christian Ministry by Charles Bridges is another book they gave away, published by Banner of Truth. Charles Bridges 1794 to 1869, served as a leader in the Evangelical Party of the Church of England during the 19th century. In addition to the Christian ministry, which went through 9 printings in just 20 years after its first publication, he also wrote highly regarded books on Proverbs, a work that Charles Spurgeon called the best treatment of this biblical book, Ecclesiastes and Psalm 119. Alistair Begg's blurb here about this book. This book has been my companion for almost 50 years. First published in 1830, it is arguably more needed now than then. It is a classic, serving as a guide to all who are aware of the perils and privileges of pastoral ministry. Does God Care How We Worship? By Lig Duncan and Mark Dever. Again, Lig is a speaker at T4G, and he's the chancellor and CEO of RTS. So I'll read the back part of this book. Does God care how we worship? For thousands of years, believers have answered with a resounding yes. Ever since the days of Cain and Abel, God has emphasized right worship, and it's clear that careless worship can have serious consequences. Worship, consciously regulated by God's word, is a distinct characteristic of the Reformed Church. Yet today, many churches do not understand that both the Old and New Testaments have much to say about appropriate worship before God. Lig Duncan lays the foundations of the regulative principle in worship, providing full biblical support as well as historical context. He also answers objections. Is this right worship essentially European? Is it flexible to different churches and contexts? Is it really still applicable today? So, Quest for Godliness by J.I. Packer, the Puritan vision of the Christian life. J.I. Packer is the Board of Governors Professor of Theology at Regent College. He has authored the classical bestseller Knowing God, as well as many other titles. He served as general editor for the Holy Bible, ESV, and theological editor for the ESV Study Bible. The Inspiration and Authority of the Bible by B.B. Warfield. B.B. Warfield, enough said. This book on prayer by John Onwuchekwa, how prayer together shapes the church. It's in the 9 Marks Building Healthy Churches series. It's a great little book. I've already read this, but John Onwuchekwa serves as pastor of Cornerstone Church in Atlanta. He is a council member for the Gospel Coalition and a contributor to the book 15 Things Seminary Couldn't Teach Me. So if you didn't go to T4G and you're looking for some resources to get, this would be another great, fantastic resource for you to get, as all the other resources they've given away. Reforming Journalism by Marvin Olosky. I think that's how you say his last name. If not, I apologize. The foreword is by Lynn Vincent, and Marvin is the editor-in-chief of World, Dean of the World Journalism Institute, and the author of 22 books, previously a reporter for Yale Daily News and the Boston Globe. He also taught journalism for 25 years at the University of Texas at Austin. Meditations on Preaching by Francis James Grimke. Francis James Grimke is the son of a slave owner and a slave, was born in Charleston, South Carolina. After a tumultuous childhood, he graduated from Lincoln University in Pennsylvania in 1870 and Princeton Theological Seminary in 1878. He pastored the 15th Street Presbyterian Church in Washington, D.C. until 1928, with a brief stint at a Presbyterian church in Jacksonville, Florida. From 1886 to 1889, he was a gifted orator and a prolific writer, and was heavily involved in the struggle for justice for African Americans in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. So this would be a great read. Meditations on Preaching by Francis James Grimke. And last but not least, Expository Exaltation by John Piper, Christian Preaching as Worship. And John is going to be a speaker. Dr. Piper is going to be a speaker at T4G this year as well. You can see the recommendations for this book. Brian Chappell, Sinclair Ferguson, Matt Chandler, Sam Storms, Miguel Nunez. So just I think this is the 3rd volume in John Piper's series on preaching. So Christian Preaching as Worship. Thank you for taking the time to watch this unboxing of the books that conference attendees were given for attending T4G this year. And thank you for T4G, as always, as investing in pastors. And even though we're dealing with a difficult situation with COVID-19, many people are looking forward to this conference and are excited about the resources that they've been given, but also just being encouraged in the gospel. So thank you for all that you all do.